take a system of classification. It is classified as Kingdom Monera, Protista, Kingdom Fungi. Based on the arrangement of the cells, the animals are classified under different phylum, right? Bilateral symmetry. Here, the body can be divided into exactly two equal halves. Coelom is nothing but the body cavity which is covered by the mesoderm. Hello everyone, a warm welcome to today's session on chapter 4, that is Animal Kingdom. I am Dr. Divya, Biology faculty, Vidyashram Pre-University College, Mysore, Temple of Excellence. So, you know that the animal world is very vast, right? There are a diverse amount of species that is present. And each animal you look into, they have a different characteristic feature. So, it is difficult to identify or to name them. So, what the scientists or the biologists have done is, they have classified the animals into groups. So, when I say they have classified the animals into groups, you will imagine like on what basis they might have classified. So, in today's session, we shall study how the classification of the animals was done based on what kind of characters. So, what characters or the features that were similar in animals were grouped together so that the classification could be done easily. So, what are the characters that were considered by the biologists for the classification? We shall study in today's session. That is, we shall study what was the basis for the classification. What characters did the scientists consider as a base for the classification of the animals? So, animals, you know that some of the fundamental features or some of the general characters that are present or general structure or the features that are present in an animal, they are common to various individuals. Say for example, I can say the animals, some have 4 legs, they have a tail, they have the notochord and they have this skin that is covered by hair. So all those are the common features. So say for example, if we consider in a group of animals, the classification would be done based on some common features such as the arrangement of the cells. So, how the cells are arranged. So, based on that, based on the body symmetry. So, based on the body symmetry means like when you cut an animal into half, they should, whether they will look identical, whether they will look non-identical, based on that the classification has been done, based on the nature of the coelom. So, coelom is nothing but the body cavity. Whether the coelom is present, whether the coelom is absent, if it is present, is it a true coelom? So, based on that they have done the categorization, and also based on the patterns of digestion. So, some animals, the way they eat the food and the digestion takes place and the excretion takes place is completely different. In a worm, it is completely different. In the herbivores, it is different. So, like this, there are differences in the digestion or the digestive system as well. So, based on that, based on the pattern of digestion, the classification has been done based on the circulatory, that is the heart, how it pumps the blood, how the circulation of the blood takes place in the body. So, based on that, based on the circulatory system also classification is done, and also they are being categorized based on the reproductive system. Reproductive system, again, some will be mammals, some will be oviparous, that is some will be oviparous, some will be viviparous. So, oviparous are the ones which lay eggs. Viviparous, some are mammals wherein they'll give a direct birth to the child. Some they lay very minute hundreds together of eggs. So, like this, the reproductive system also varies. And also, there are a lot of differences in the structure. So, when you, I told you, if the animals have to be categorized, there should be some similarity, right? So, there should be some similarity. So, if I just consider the structure or the external morphology or the way the animal looks to our eyes, based on that, if we try to categorize, then in one group, they will not be group at all. Individually, we'll place the animals separately, right? So, that is not possible. So, that is when the grouping is done based on these characteristics or the characters that I have told you. So based on these, the classification or the grouping has been done. So I told you based on the structure it cannot be done. Why? Because I'll take the example of a deer. So deer, some of the deers, they have spots on their body, right? Some do not have spots. Some have antlers, which is nothing but the horn. So some of the deers have antlers or the horns. Some do not have the horns. Some will have a tuft of hair on their tail. Some will not have. So all these, though if you look at the structure, it is different. They look different, but still they have been grouped under one class. They have been grouped as deer species, right? So that is why just by looking at the structure, we cannot classify. Therefore, whatever I have marked here, these are very, very important for classifying an organism. So these features are used as the basis of animal classification. So what are the features? As I told, the arrangement of cells, body symmetry, nature of the coelom, the presence of the digestive system, patterns of the digestive system, the circulatory or the reproductive system. Based on all these, the classification has been done. So we shall study about each of the different characters that have been used for classifying the animals in detail. We shall study one by one. So first, I shall consider the first basis of classification based on the level of organization. So we know that all the members, so we are studying about the kingdom animal. So animal is nothing but Animalia. So in members of Animalia, wherein the different types of animals. So you know that in Animalia, the kingdom Animalia, you have reptiles, you have insects, birds, amphibians, and whatnot, different things are there. So although all members of Animalia, they are multicellular. And remember, what are unicellular? The bacteria, that is the Monerans. So kingdom Monera you have studied in the previous sessions, right? But when it comes to kingdom Animalia, all are multicellular. So Animalia is one of Whittaker's system of classification, if you remember. So I told you in Whittaker's system of classification, it is classified as kingdom Monera, Protista, kingdom Fungi, and we had Plantae and Animalia. So up till Plantae we finished studying. So today onwards we are starting with studying the kingdom Animalia. So under members of kingdom Animalia, almost all the organisms are multicellular. That is, they are made up of more than one cell. That is, they are multicellular. So unicellular, only one cell. This is unicellular. Multicellular, they are made up of groups of cells, more than one cell. That is why it is multicellular. This is multi. So they are multicellular, and all of them, they do not exhibit the same pattern of organization. So I can give you the example of a human body, right? Compare a human with an animal. There is difference, right? Though we are multicellular, the way the cells are arranged, that will give the shape to our body. So that is what here, though all members of Animalia are multicellular, all of them do not exhibit the same pattern of organization of the cells, because when you look at the cell, they can be of different organizations. That is, they can be cellular level of organization. Because in sponges, I've taken the example of sponges here. In sponges, they are just cellular level of organization. Here, organ system. So you know about organs. So what are the organs? The organ system. So group of cells will form the tissue. The tissue forms the organ. Like you have the stomach. Stomach is the organ. You have the kidney. Kidney is the organ. So stomach, kidney, the excretory organs, the intestine, which is an organ, all that together will form the organ system, right, which is the digestive system. But all that is not there in the sponge. In the sponge, it is just they are made up of more than one number of cells. So they are only cellular level of organization. So in sponge, we can see cellular level of organization. And when we take the example of coelenterate, so these are coelenterates. So these jellyfish, all those are sea anemones. So jellyfish, especially all these are coelenterates. So these coelenterates, they have tissue level of organization. So about each of these different classes, that is phylum, coelenterate, sponges, that is Porifera, coelenterate, Platyhelminthes. All these in detail we'll study in the next coming sessions. So now for now you can understand that in coelenterates there is tissue level of organization, means here there is cell and there are group of cells which form a tissue. They form tissues. So they have tissue level of organization in the case of coelenterates, and when it comes to Platyhelminthes, they have organ level of organization. So can you see here, based on cellular level they have classified it as sponges, Porifera. Based on tissue level they have classified it as coelenterates. Based on the organ level of organization. So now moving here in Platyhelminthes, they have organs. They have organ level of classification, because organs are present here, different organs are present. So what are the different organs? We will study in the coming sessions and all that. So here organ level of organization, and therefore those organisms which have the organization up to the organ level, they are called as the Platyhelminthes. They have been classified under the phylum Platyhelminthes. Then we have rest all the phylums, that is the annelids, the arthropods, which are the insects, the mollusks, that is your whatever shellfish and all you see, no, shells. They are nothing but the molluscans. Then we have echinoderms, then the chordates. Chordates are we human beings, birds, animals, all that. Arthropods are nothing but the insects, especially the spider and all that. So all these, they have organ system level of organization, because the best example I can give you is our body. As I told you, we have organ system. We have cellular system wherein cells are there. Those cells will form groups to form tissue, and it will not end in tissue. If it had ended in tissue, then we human beings would have been tissue level of organization, and maybe they would have placed us under the phylum Coelenterates. But no, it doesn't stop here. After those tissues together, they form the organ, then the organ together, they form the organ system. So animals, here I have taken the example of the millipede here. They have organ system of that is organ system of organization. So based on these, they have been classified. Organ system. So based on this, they have been classified. So here we have cellular level, tissue level, organ level, and organ system level of organization. This is the level of organization based on the cells, how the cells are arranged. Next, moving on to one more basis of classification which was considered to classify the animal kingdom. It is the organs. So I told you about organ system level of organization. So I was talking about cellular level of organization, wherein based on the arrangement of the cells, the animals are classified under different phylum, right? So here they are classified based on, so the main thing is about the organ system. So organ system and organ system level of classification, we have the phylum Annelids, the arthropods, the mollusks, then the chordates and all that, right? So what is this organ system level of organization? So I can explain taking the example of the digestive system. So we'll consider digestive system. So the organ system is actually different in different groups of animals, because if you take the example of the digestive system, again here based on the organ system, again the classification is done. So here I have taken two examples. So both have the digestive system, but it is completely different. I'll show you how. So organ system in different groups of animals, they have their various patterns of complexities. They are complex in their own way. Different patterns of digestion or the process of eating food and the elimination of food will take place. So there are two types based on that: incomplete digestive system and complete digestive system. So I can take the example of Platyhelminthes. So this is Platyhelminthes. And chordates. Platyhelminthes and chordate. So rabbit is one best example. So I'll take the example of these. So incomplete, first we'll look into what incomplete digest. Again, based on the organ level of classification, again in organ level of classification, again it is divided whether the organisms or the animals have an incomplete digestive system or whether they have a complete digestive system. So incomplete digestive system means only one single opening is present. I'll take the example of human beings because it is easy to understand. So do we have only one opening? No, right? We eat the food. So in order to eat the food, what we have? Mouth. Mouth is the opening. So we put our food inside the mouth and it will enter through the food gut or the esophagus, food pipe, the esophagus. Then it will enter into the stomach. Then it will enter into the intestine. In the intestine, the unwanted food will get eliminated. From where it gets eliminated? Through the anus, that is the opening, right? So we have two openings, one for ingesting or eating the food, the other one for excreting or eliminating the food, right? That is complete digestive system. But in the case of incomplete digestive system, only one single opening is present, that is food also enters through that opening only and food also gets eliminated or excreted through that one opening itself. So here only a single opening to the outside of the body is present and this opening, it serves as both mouth and the anus. So you can see here in Platyhelminthes, it doesn't have a mouth. Here food will enter through this opening, food enters through this opening and it gets excreted through this opening. Excretion, eating food and excreting food both takes place through one opening only. That is incomplete digestion. So complete digestive system, we have two openings. So one, we have the first opening, that is we have the mouth, right? Mouth is there. Then comes the anus. So anus is there. So two openings are there. One is the mouth and the anus. Food is eaten through the mouth. So food is eaten through the mouth and it is excreted through the anus. Excretion, it is eliminated through the anus. Two openings, that is complete. So that is why you could have asked me, now both have digestive system, no ma'am, why didn't they put it under the same phylum? Why did they put it under chordate separate and Platyhelminthes separate? Again here, based on the digestive pattern, they have been separated. So next, moving on to the in organ system level of organization, moving on to the circulatory system. So we have finished with digestive system. Circulatory system, again there are two types of circulatory system. One is the open type circulatory system and closed type circulatory system. So in open type circulatory system, again to understand open type circulatory system, I will first explain the closed type circulatory system. The best example again I'll take is we human beings. So in we human beings, the blood enters into the heart, it gets whatever process that takes place in the heart will be done and it will be pumped out of the heart. But once it is pumped out of the heart, will the blood just flow haphazardly here and there? No, it will be carried by the veins, right? That is closed type of circulatory system. But in the type of open type of circulatory system, the blood is pumped out of the heart and there is no veins to carry the blood to different organs. All the organs will just as such, it will bathe in the blood. I'll just show you. So consider this to be a organ. This is the heart and this is the organ systems that are present. So here what happens, the blood will enter into the heart. So say for example, this is the heart. The blood will enter into the heart and it comes out of the heart just like that. Just like that it will come out and all the organelles will bathe in this blood. So these are the organelles. Organelles, they will bathe in the blood. There is no pipeline. For you to easily understand, I'll use the word pipeline. There is no pipeline as such to deliver the blood. Just like that. Say for example, to make it easy for you to understand, you have garden, okay, garden. In the garden, you want to water the plant. So what you'll do is first you'll on the pipe and then you have different patches of garden. 3 beds are there, flower beds, okay. So just through one pipe, you pass the water and just sprinkle the water. All the plants will bathe just like that in the water, right? Now what you do is from that single pipe, make 3 different connections to the flower bed. The it'll act like a vein, wherein that water will just flow through those flower beds itself. It will not drench the whole flower, 3 flower beds. So that is the same thing that happens here. Here the organs will bathe in the blood because there is no veins that actually carry the bloods to specific organs. So that is nothing but open type. Here the blood is pumped out of the heart and the cells and the tissues directly bathe in it. So this is how. Here the best example here, the insect, that is arthropod. I have taken the example of grasshopper here. So you can see here there is no veins as such. So whatever organs or cells are there, they will completely get bathed in the blood, or it will be soaked with blood. But in closed type, what happens here is the blood is circulated through a series of vessels or veins, blood vessels or arteries or veins and capillaries. Therefore, each organ, what blood it should get, it will get it separately. It means the organs or the cells will not completely bathe in the blood. So this is the open type and the closed type of circulatory. So based on the circulatory system also, the animals are classified under different phylum. So next, moving on to, I told you based on symmetry also classification is done. So based on symmetry, what is the symmetry? Symmetry means, say for example, if I just draw a line in the middle of this, I'm just drawing a line in the middle of this. So it will cut it into 2 halves. Right? So that is nothing but symmetry. So here, when I draw a line here in the middle, it will cut it into 1 half towards the left and the other half towards the right. So that is nothing but symmetry. The same with the finger also. You just draw a line here, it will be cut into 2 halves. So that is nothing but symmetry. So here, under symmetry, there are 3 types of symmetry. The classification is done based on whether it is asymmetrical, whether it is radially symmetrical or bilaterally symmetrical. Asymmetrical. So whenever the word A comes, means there is no symmetry. It cannot be cut into 2 equal halves. That is asymmetrical. So any plane that passes through the center, say for example, I've taken the best example for sponges is asymmetrical. So I will draw a line here. I'll draw a plane. I will draw a line here. Does the 2 half look same? No. Here there is one depression, but here it is not there. It will not look same, right? It is not mirror image of each other. That is why it is asymmetrical. Asymmetrical means any plane that passes through the center, it will not divide this particular organism not divide them into equal halves. That is why it is asymmetrical. As you see the image itself, you will understand they are not equally half. They are not mirror images. This side looks different, this side looks different, right? So that is asymmetrical. The best example is sponges. So best example is sponge. So this is the sponge example. Next, moving on to radial symmetry. So you draw a number of lines in any plane. So number of lines you draw like this. It should cut them in equal halves. Means each cut should be like a cake piece. So in cake, if the cherries are arranged very neatly around a cake, if you cut it into different planes, from the center if you cut the cake. So for example, in a cake, I'll just tell you, I've put cherries here. Everything is same. Full cake is brown in color and here cherry is there. So I have cut it in this plane. So each half will look exactly similar to the other cut. Right? So that is nothing but radial symmetry. So any plane passing through the central axis that divides the body of an organism into 2 identical halves is called as the radial symmetry. The best example that I can give is phylum Coelenterata, that is the coelenterats, the ctenophores and the echinoderms. So here I have taken the example of the starfish. So in starfish, what I will do is I will cut them into different planes. So maybe radial symmetry. So I can cut them like this, then like this, like this, like this, like this. Can you see? This half is exactly similar to this half. The other half of this is exactly similar to this. This half is exactly similar to this. They are exactly similar. How many ever planes of line you draw to cut them, they will look exactly similar. That is nothing but radial symmetry. So next, moving on to bilateral symmetry. Here, the body can be divided into exactly two equal halves. So now can you see here, this half and this half both are looking same. They are mirror images. So the body can be divided into identical left and right half in one plane. The best example is annelids and the arthropods. So here I have taken the example of the arthropod, that is insect. So here this one is radial symmetry and this is bilateral symmetry. Bilateral. So here I'll draw a line here exactly in the center. So here exactly in the center I will draw a line. So now can you see, they look similar. This leg with this leg, this one with this one with this. Two equal halves you can cut them into. Exactly mirror image. The best example again I can give you is we human beings. So if we cut ourselves into half, we will look exactly the mirror image of ourselves, right? Half. So that is nothing but bilateral symmetry. So this is based on the whether the animal asymmetrical, radially symmetrical or bilaterally symmetrical, the organisms can be classified, or the animals the kingdom Animalia can be classified into different phylum. So next also whether they are diploblastic and triploblastic, based on that the animal kingdom can be classified into different phyla. So what are diploblastic? Diplo means two. So here the cells are arranged. So blastic is something, blastomere means it is something related, blastic, it is something related to the embryo. So here diploblastic, the cells are arranged in two embryonic layers. That is, they will have a external layer, so the embryo. So any organism that gives birth to a young one, before they develop a fetus, they will form the embryo, right? First we'll have the embryo, which is just a mass of cell, and then it gets converted into the fetus. First the zygote, which is single cell, that zygote will undergo division to form the embryo, which is a mass of cells, collection of cells, and that embryo will get converted into the fetus, right? So in the embryo stage, how many layers they are covered with? Based on that, they are classified as diploblastic and triploblastic. So if the cells of an embryo, that is if the cells are arranged in two embryonic layers, that is an external ectoderm. External, ecto means outside, derma means skin or layer. So again here, ecto means outside, derma means skin. So it is an outer layer. It is understood, outer layer. So ectoderm and an internal endoderm. Endo means inside. Derma again means skin or layer. So the layer that is present towards the inside is called as the endoderm. So if they are covered by the ectoderm and the endoderm, then it is called as diploblastic. So ectoderm and endoderm, then they are covered by two layers. It is called as diploblastic. So now don't get confused saying that, ma'am, there is one more layer you have written here. It is called as mesoglia. Now it is three layers. No. So mesoglia is not a layer. It is just a gelatinous substance that is present in between the ectoderm and the endoderm. So this mesoglia is nothing but a gelatinous coating, that it is not a layer. It is not a covering actually. It is just a gelatinous coating that is present between the outer layer, that is the ectoderm, and the inner layer, that is the endoderm. So this is based on that they are classified as diploblastic. So as I told you, between the ectoderm and the endoderm there is an undifferentiated layer. Undifferentiated means they have not actually formed two cells. That is, they are not being converted to cells. So that is why it is an undifferentiated layer, which is called as mesoglia, and it is present between the ectoderm and the endoderm. So this diploblastic condition of arrangement of the embryonic layers is usually found in coelenterate. It is usually found in coelenterate. So next, moving on to triploblastic. Here triplo, tri means three. They are covered by three layers. So the developing embryo, they have a third germinal layer. So what they are made up of? Ectoderm is there, endoderm. In between the ectoderm and the endoderm, they have a mesoderm. Meso, middle, derm means layer. So this mesoderm, they have differentiated cells. That is why we can call it as a layer. Okay. So here they have the ectoderm, which is the outer layer. Then they have the mesoderm, that is the inner layer. Mesoderm, it is the middle layer. Here mesoderm. Then it has the endoderm, inner to the mesoderm. So outer ectoderm, inner to the ectoderm is the mesoderm, then more inner towards the inside of the mesoderm is the endoderm. So there are 3 layers, 1, 2 and 3. Here only 2 layers are there, 1 and 2. So here since 3 layers are there, it is called as triploblastic. The best example is the platyhelminthes and chordates. From the platyhelminthes to the chordates, whatever phylum is there, all those animals, they have the triploblastic layers, that is 3 layers around the embryo. So this is about diploblastic and triploblastic organization. Next, moving on to, I told you the classification is also done based on the coelom, that is whether the coelom is present or absent. If present, whether it is a true coelom or a false coelom. So coelom is nothing but the body cavity which is covered by the mesoderm. So in coelom, there are 2 types, that is coelomates. So you can call it as coelomates. So those animals which have coelom in their body are called as the coelomates. So animals that possess a coelom. So what is a coelom? It is a body cavity. So you can see here they have a cavity, that is the coelom. This is the cavity or the empty space, the cavity, that is nothing but the coelom. So those animals that possess a body cavity and it is lined by the mesoderm. So this body cavity, it is lined by the mesoderm. So you can see here ectoderm, then endoderm, then mesoderm. So those animals which have a cavity, body cavity that is covered by the mesoderm, they are called as coelomates. So, and examples are, we have annelids, mollusks, arthropods, echinoderms, hemichordates and chordates. All these phylum, the animals coming under all these phylums, they are coelomates. Now we know they are coelomates. So in coelomates, again we have pseudocoelomates and acoelomates. So pseudocoelomates. So the body cavity is not actually lined by the mesoderm. Instead, the mesoderm is present as scattered pouches in between. So I'll just give you the example. In coelomates, what happened? The cavity was continuously lined by the mesoderm. But in the case of pseudocoelomate, the mesoderm is present, okay? But the mesoderm doesn't act like a layer. Layer means it should cover something, right? Here, in this example, what is it covering? In the case of coelomates, the mesoderm is covering the cavity. But in this case, the mesoderm is present, but it is not covering the cavity. But they are, see here, you can understand in the diagram itself, they are not covering the cavity. Cavity is there, but they are not covering the cavity like this. Around, they are not covering the cavity. They are just forming circular arrangements in the cavity like this. So that is why they are called as pseudocoelomates, or they are false coelom. They are present, but they are acting as if they are coelom. So that is pseudocoelomates. The best example for them is phylum Ascomyinthus. Next is acoelomates. As I told you, if the word A comes in front of something in the case of biology, it means it is absent. So acoelomates means the body cavity is absent. The best example is platyhelminthes. So you can see here they have the ectoderm, then they have the mesoderm, and they have the endoderm. But can you see here, just like here cavity was there, but can you see here no cavity at all. The 3 layers are there, but soon after the mesoderm, there is the endoderm being present. No cavity at all in between. So those are called as acoelomates. So based on this, classification is also done. Next, moving on to based on the segmentation. So segments, what are segments? Lines. So something I draw like this and draw lines in between here, they are nothing but segments. So these are segments. So segments. So body is externally and internally divided into segments. Segments we usually don't find in chordates and all that, or in insects and all that. Usually they are found in worms, that is earthworm, Annelida members. So here the best example is earthworm. So body is externally and internally divided into segments with the serial repetition of at least some organs. So I can give the example of a leech. So leech, you know what happens in leeches, they have body segments. So this is how the leech looks like. So they have body segments. And if you open the leech, if you dissect the leech to see that each body segment will have kidney. So we people, or animals, we have just one kidney, right, or nephron. But leeches on both sides, wherever segmentation has occurred, they will have kidney like this. Here kidney organ has repeated multiple times. So the body is externally and internally divided into segments, and in the segment there is repetition of the organs occurring. So that is nothing but some of the animals, they have segmentation like this. The best example is we can see metamerism or segmentation in earthworm. So that process is called as metamerism. So earthworm, can you see here, there are segments present. So here clearly you can see segments are present like this. These are nothing but the segments. It looks like as if it is rings. You arrange bangles in your hand. It looks like segments, right? So that is nothing but, it looks like that, as if bangles are there. It is full covered bangles. So they are segments like this. So that process is nothing but metamerism. So here, based on whether the segments are present or absent, based on that also the Animalia, kingdom Animalia are classified. Next, moving on to the presence of the notochord. So notochord is very, very important. Notochord, actually, it is a mesodermally derived. So from where does the notochord form? So the mesoderm, actually, that is the middle layer that is present between the ectoderm and the endoderm. When the mesoderm, it gets converted to a rod-like structure. So this is the chordate. So this is the rod-like structure that you can see here. It is the chordate. So these rod-like structures that are formed on the dorsal side. So dorsal side, this is the dorsal, and the lower one ventral. So on the dorsal side, you can see the cord-like structure that are present during the embryonic development. So those animals that have cords, notochord present, they are called as chordates, and those animals which do not have a backbone. So we have a backbone, right? So easily for you to understand, I can say those animals which have a backbone or those animals which have a chordate, they are those animals which have a notochord, they are placed under chordates, and those which do not have a notochord or a backbone, they are placed under non-chordates. So the best example for non-chordates are Porifera and Echinoderms. So these sea urchins and all that, sponges, sea urchins, so all those do not have a chordate or a notochord. They do not have a notochord or a backbone. So based on whether the presence or absence of notochord is there, based on that also they are classified. So these were the basis of classification, wherein we studied the cellular organization, then the organ level of organization, then we studied about the presence or absence of the notochord, then we came to know based on segments they are classified, based on the symmetry they are classified, then also based on the presence of the layers that are covering the embryo, we have classified them as whether they are diploblastic or triploblastic. So all these formed the basis of the classification. So in the next coming session, we shall study about each phylum separately. So how do you think those phylums were grouped or made in the kingdom Animalia? It is based on all these characters that I said. So based on observing the similarities in these characters, they have been grouped under different phylum. The animals have been grouped. So in the next coming session, we shall study about them. So I hope you have understood this session very well. We shall meet in the next coming session. Thank you.